No esperes que el éxito toque tu puerta. Sal a buscarlo. Believe in you.
Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Acá de regreso por Believe in You. We're back on RadioLatinoInc.com on Believe in You with my special guest, Renee Piane. The love, what is it? The love designer. I have never heard that, so I'm like dying to find out what is it that this woman does. Today, as we know, we're approaching Valentine's Day, so I thought it was so apropos to talk about love, and what was when she gave me like a list of things to talk about, I looked and I'm like, whoa, this woman has got a wealth of information, knowledge, experience, 30 years, right?
Almost 30 years, yes. I have, well, actually, when you think about a designer, I have been helping brides and people to design where they live, the way they look, because I was in the beauty industry. So I was always designing weddings, and then I was realizing half of the brides that were getting married probably shouldn't have been getting married, and I was always giving advice. So I decided to combine my talent in the beauty industry in combination with helping people that are especially getting back in the game after breakups, because many people don't really, if they've been married or in a relationship for a long time, they're not really up with what's happening in the dating game, So I help them design the plan
that
to get.
Happened to me.
Yeah? It happened to you?
Yes,
It happened to half the world.
10 years ago, I came back.
Yeah.
And it was a whole different world.
And it's even more different every year.
Yes. It's very disturbing. To me, it's very disturbing because now you have multiple generations living together at the same time.
That's right.
X, Y, then you have the boomers, and it's very interesting because at my age, I get approached by younger men.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like 15, 20 years younger, and the thinking is so off.
Mm-hmm. Well, every generation, I wanted to address this because when I came to Los Angeles from the East Coast, I'm Italian. And that's why, these all of us Latino girls, right? We have this way of every culture, really. It's been such an interesting thing because I've worked with every age group, every culture, because I pioneered the first speed dating company called Rapid Dating in Los Angeles in 2000.
Wow.
So I got to see daters in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s and up, right? So all the women that are in our age group, right, we were brought up to believe a certain thing, that our prince is coming and that life was going to be beautiful once we get married, just like the fairy tales. And then the men that were a little older than us that were dating us had been brought up by 50s moms, and we became these I am women, hear me roar, Wonder Women, and the men kind of were confused. So then I started teaching men back in 1992 about powerful women and how to prepare for love, get the tools to prepare for love. And many of the women are disappointed, now. So what's happening now, the mix is so unique. A lot of women that are dynamic, they are going out with younger men. And the men, the women always say, oh, the men want younger women. Well, let me just tell you, it goes both ways. It goes both ways because a lot of younger men are really attracted to the power of dynamic women that are a little bit older than them. So my sister married a man younger than her. My brother married a woman, I think 7.5 years older than her. And it can work. It can work if it's the right match with lifestyle and your purpose of life.
Well, I have members of the family, 2 or 3 siblings, that are married, to women older or men younger. And they're great. They have great marriages, long marriages. But now that you're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's very true. Different. The values, I noticed the values are just way off. The generational values are too different. There's a lot. I feel that there's a loss of values from my value system.
I have to agree. There's not many role models, and that's sort of what I've become because I was a Wonder Woman. I did wait to get married because I was always working until in my 40s, and now I feel like I'm a model of extraordinary love. I do. I have an extraordinary relationship with my husband. Was a busy man, married twice. So, I have a lot of experience with the people that are going through divorce and breakups because once you're over 30 or and up, you've gone through some stuff. You've had either been married and had kids, or you had your heart ripped out from someone, male and female. And men,
Yes,
ladies, I just
yes.
want, the women, if there's more women, I don't know what your audience is, but there's,
We have a 50-50.
if it's 50-50,
Yes.
hey, you guys, I've
Yes,
been coaching
50-50.
men, woo! And if you're an advanced man, you're lucky now, because there's a lot of information. Back when I was teaching men, they would not admit to pick up a book because they didn't want their buddies to know that
That's
they
right.
needed power tools, right? So if you look on the book, it has a power tool that looks sort of like a man's tool, right? Because men are interested in the energy of beauty and, to be attracted to women. But it's way deeper than that. It has to have lifestyle values, religion values, family values, when you really look for a life partner. But right now, with the swiping and the quickness of dating, people are gone. The younger generation are just, quote, hooking up.
Yes.
But they're lonelier than
Yes.
ever. The younger generation needs to learn how to flirt, how to connect, and how to know what your vision is. And if you get hurt when you're young, it carries through as you get older, and the walls get thicker and thicker and thicker if you don't do an evaluation. So that's what we're here to talk about today, I guess.
Yes, it's how do you come back from a breakup? How do you reinvent yourself? Let me tell you what one of the most shocking things were for me coming out of my marriage was the vocabulary. That was the first thing. I had already been dealing with a cultural shock because I'm Dominican and we have certain slangs.
Right.
And I was married to a Mexican, and although we never had those issues, but coming back into the dating scene, then those issues were there.
So
you have to train. You have to train them. You have to explain to them that certain words that may have a certain meaning to them that may think it's like, oh my God, like offensive. It's not offensive to us. And then it also goes back also to the food, the music. So it was, but the most challenging thing were the slangs that at the time, like one time someone, instead of saying I'm sorry, he said that my bad. I said, what the hell is that?
My bad. Like, my bad. That was my bad. And you're like, what does that mean? You're
Right.
bad. You're a bad boy.
Yeah, I'm like, my bad. I'm like, since when did we go, I'm sorry, to my bad? But two boys, and that's the way that the sons would speak. So that's what I started to notice, is that the vocabulary that he was using was that of his sons. And this is 10 years. Yeah, 10 years
But
ago.
when parents have kids, right, and then they're trying to get back in the game, they're thinking that what their kids are doing is cool, and it's really sometimes not. It's so interesting because my husband was divorced and had a son, and when I met him, he was 16. So he was in a whole world, and it's become such an interesting thing because most people that are going through divorce, many times when you go back in the game, you're meeting people that have gone through divorce that are confused, right? So everybody's got to lighten up and realize that you need to examine yourself, and that's what my work is about. As a designer, it's like, look at where you are now, and yes, maybe you're heartbroken, but there's a reason that it happened. Most people got married really young. Like, how old were you when you got married?
I was already 33. I did not want to marry just any guy, and that person just wasn't there. And even when I married, that was not the person, but I knew that. And those are the things that I've always been very conscientious of my decisions. I don't play the victim part.
Good.
The part that does upset me is when I have made decisions, then I'm beating myself because I picked the wrong person as a partner to date, and I find out that they were lying. That part, I can't control that.
No, you can't.
Because I want to believe in the best in people. And if you tell me that's what you are, then that's what you are.
Well, that's a good point, because when we're busy people, and that's what my book is about, it's for busy, successful people that almost take love, like you say, oh, this man was online, like when you go online and he says he's looking for a long-term committed relationship and he loves kids and you have a kid, or he doesn't mind that you work, but then when you meet him live, it takes a time to reveal. Like, it's like the slow reveal, like on The Bachelor,
Yes.
And then you get to see the behaviors. So when people say things, that's one thing. And the interesting thing about the internet, which I want everybody to know this secret if you're getting back in the dating game, is that a lot of people, when they're in the middle of a breakup, they'll call me. That's when people call me. They're like, my heart is ripped out. I don't know how to get back in the dating game. I'm rusty. And then the first thing they do is go online and they slap up all these pictures and write. Most men write like 3 or 4 words, like
Yes.
nice guy looking for an amazing woman, while his heart is ripping out and he's feeling like a little boy from his divorce. Or women like, I'm going to date and I'm just going to get over it. Well, I say to slow down first, because there was something that was in that relationship. Maybe, like you even said, I knew it probably wasn't right. Did you know when you married him that it wasn't right?
Yes, I knew.
When you were walking up the aisle?
I knew. I didn't even want to have a religious wedding because to me that's too important, too special. So I said, no, I'm going to have a civil wedding because I already know I'm not marrying the right person. So I'm good with that. If it means I have to
Wow, so
wait
you
until I'm
even
30,
knew.
I knew all of it. It just, yes.
Well, that's why
Yes.
when people meet with me and I ask people to get real. Like, this is the book. It's called Get Real About Love. So if you're in the middle of a breakup and you really look at how you set it up, like right from the beginning, there was so many times I was running rapid dating, I was teaching classes, I was on television, I was running around. And so I would meet a guy that was had that sparkle online or on a personal ad. Back then there was video dating, personal ads. That's how long it's been since I've done this, when the video dating came out back in 1990. And I would meet people, but I was so busy, and they would tell me all these wonderful things, but then they weren't those things. They didn't live up to who they were. But if you get involved and jump in bed with people right away, you override all of that,
All of that, yes.
and you marry people, right? People get married, and they're like, we'll work it out later. He drinks too much, but I'm sure I could change him.
Yes.
Or, she's a shopaholic and spends and spends and spends, but once we're married, I'll tame her ass down. She won't be using my credit card. Well, that doesn't happen. I mean, the habits of a person have to get revealed over time. And most people, when they get back in the game, sometimes they've been divorced from that person, even though they haven't been officially divorced. So when people break up, a lot of them say, well, I knew my wife wasn't my wife for a long time, and I was half-assed in the relationship. They weren't really all in. So then when they get divorced, it's they're not. Some people are their hearts are ripped out because they've been all in and their partner's been half in,
Right.
or both of them haven't been in and neither one wanted to admit it, so they stayed in it too long, right?
Yes.
So depending on if you're brokenhearted, a lot of times you're mad at yourself that you stayed too long.
Well, that's typical.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people stay in relationships, and especially when there's children.
Yes.
Yeah, especially women. Women stay because it's mostly financial.
I know.
That's just the reality, is that it's like, well, you don't believe in yourself. You don't have trust in yourself and your abilities. And when someone is also putting you down. I mean, I was in that situation.
Yeah.
Where I felt, I'm just, an interior designer, and I was running a nonprofit organization, and there was nothing out there in terms of job that really got my attention. I said, I'm running this foundation because it's my family's foundation,
Yes.
and I felt obligated to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to get back into the design game, and I didn't want to get into the management game because that's what I had done, and I had been burnt in the industry. So
Wow.
it was very hard. I had no clarity as to what I wanted to do. I would look for jobs, and nothing got my attention. And then the salaries, and he would tell me, well, what are you going to do? Go get paid $36,000, and that's all going to go on babysitter.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true.
So there were all of these. So I financially we were okay, so I didn't have to. And I was working. I just wasn't getting paid. But I was running this nonprofit, and I had employees. I was paying my employees. I
More
wasn't
than you were
paying-
making.
No,
probably
I
not.
was not paying myself. So when I
Wow.
said I wasn't paying myself, I wasn't. I had employees because that made my life easier. I was able to run the organization and ran it out of my house. And I had a couple of offices. Ended up bringing it back to my house when I had my second child. But again, it was one of those situations where you got to the point, like when I had my daughter, I was in the hospital. I didn't want to go home. I felt like I was in a vacation. That was how I sort of just put it in my head, and I didn't want to leave. So when I had to leave, I was crying. I didn't want to leave the hospital. I wanted
because
to
you had to go
home.
back. So many people have to go back to situations.
So that
or live in a
reality,
yeah.
yes.
But when you're getting ready to break up, I always tell people before you get divorced, call me, because there's a lot of factors to it. Separating your living space, the expense, the support that you're going to need. Because men or women are calling, they're like, I'm done. I'm just going to pack up and walk out. And I'm like, you have no idea where the money is. Like if there is legal things involved,
Yes.
right? So I work with a lot of divorce attorneys, financial planners, and they get these people that are going through divorce coming to them, and then the person will say, what do I do now about my love life? And they're like,
Yes.
call Renee, right? So before you do anything, you need to create a support system, and men usually don't have as much of a support system as women do. We have tribes of women where we
Yes.
get together, we believe in each other, and we go and we get together and we have evenings and cry and all that. You have to have somebody to trust with your heart. And you have to be really gentle with yourself, because sometimes you're beating yourself up for the mistake that you did 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And then there's a lot of women that don't marry, or men that don't marry, but they stay with the same person for 8 years, right? And I don't know, I had given your number out. Can you give the number out? I gave your number out for people to call in. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that.
Yes.
But there was a lot of, this is what I do every day, helping people to get back in the game. And many of them go through that. It's like a tunnel of sadness before the next phase. And if you have somebody to hold your hand during that time, with empowerment to believe in yourself again, and to really look at how you set yourself up for it not to work, and to get a plan, an action plan together. That's what I wanted to say. You have to create a healing team while you're going through healing.
So basically, are you saying that men need more support than women?
It's not that they need more support. It's just that they're so private about it, and women think that men are so strong. A lot of times they know, a lot of men that and even, men that I coach, they say, I already knew this girl wasn't right for me when I married her, just like you were saying earlier. Mm-hmm. But then once I got in, I felt a commitment, but I never was really fully there, and I'm really mad at myself. But when you're married, you usually have married friends. And then, your life, think about the amount of hours we have in our lives. We have our kids, and then you have your work, and then your marriage. It's not like guys have a lot of times to have buddies. Women spend a little bit more time creating a congregation, unless a man has a lot of men friends at work. But men are very private about they're private about their pain. They're very private. So when they find me, I'm kind of the wake-up call that women wish that they could have sent their husband to be first, so I could have saved them from doing this, because men don't want to believe that they need some help in the romance department. That's why Valentine's Day always irritates women, because the men don't step up. They think about it at like 1 p.m. They go to get a card, and there's all the crappy cards. And I'm always telling men, just think in advance of what your wife would like or your girlfriend would like, and don't wait till the last minute, because we know when the roses are half dead, when we get them. It doesn't even have to be a big deal. But women say they get disappointed. But then there's the other factor, is that women have expected men to know what to do, and they haven't been trained. So when you meet, this is the whole point, when you're getting back in the game, you're thinking, okay, next time I go out, I'm going to meet somebody at a different level. But it takes time to learn, to see if a person is where you are. But if you spend, the one thing I can say, if you're going through a heartbreak, is get support so that you're not in a phase of 6 months to 2 years of pain, because life is so sacred, and each moment of every day, you need to believe in yourself. That's why I love what you're doing. Believe in you, so that you're not spending as many years angsting over the problems and the sadness, and make a plan to change it and design something new, because you weren't happy then either. So if you take the same crappy thoughts that are in your mind, and then you're out saying, oh God, it's so hard to be in the dating game, it's bad, it's terrible, you become one of those negative people that take your own self down a negative spiral. instead of finding people that have what you want and say, okay, this time I'm going to listen to my heart. I'm going to be honest with myself. I'm going to slow down and really see if this man or this woman is aligned with who I am now. But if you're sad, you're half sad and half kind of happy and trying to do what Stella did, and Stella got her groove back and went and, met a guy to give her her groove back. Hey, sometimes that's good. Go out and have some fun, but you got to watch what you're thinking and how hard you are on yourself when you're going through it.
But so these are some of the scenarios that I've either encountered or friends have shared with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes men have been divorced for a long time.
That's
and
right.
I'm talking like 10 years,
That's
8
right.
years. That is a long time
That's right.
to be alone because they have been whipped bad
By women.
by the ex-wife.
I
mean, nasty. There's some nasty women out there. They end up traumatized.
Yeah.
To the point that trust is what becomes the issue. And not only the trust factor is also the fear of being hurt.
That's
because
right.
they are weaker than us. When it comes to the emotions, they're babies. Just like
have
when they
to
get
agree.
sick,
I have to
they
agree.
get sick, they're the biggest babies.
Yeah.
They get their heart broken, they're the biggest babies. But the flip side of that is that when they're jerks, boy, they don't realize or they don't want to realize and admit that they've been jerks, and they can just like you said, they can pack it up and leave. Like when there's children in the relationship and you see men, they can completely disconnect even from the family responsibility and go off and start another family just like nothing happened. Like that other family doesn't even exist.
That's true.
So they can be very cold-hearted, and to me that's like the fear I have with men, that they are definitely I have a trust issue.
Well, look at the back of the book. Based on trust, it says, open your heart to trust and love again. Okay. I came from a wonderful family, but weaved into 5 generations was a lot of cheaters. And all the women in my family were left alone with children to raise their kids on their own. So I had the same trust issue, and the only reason that I feel so adamant about that I got over it was because I had to heal my own heart from what I heard and saw and experienced from my lineage of my family. So there's a differentiator when you really look at how a man or a woman was wired from when they were young and what they saw and learned about what love was. Most men didn't really have great role models. They had men that went out and brought home the bacon, and what mom usually stayed home. The men that we dated, at least some of the old school guys that I dated, I was like a Wonder Woman because I wanted to protect myself. I wanted to have my own money, and I had been hurt again and again and again. And normally, the pattern, anybody that's listening out there, if you really do an evaluation, which this book does to make you get real, I rushed because of my little girl. So you have this part of you, just like you were talking about the little boy. So we all have a little girl that can have some beliefs that cause the wall. And then you have this Wonder Woman that's like, I don't know if I'm ever going to trust men. I am Wonder Woman. I can do it on my own, and I don't need anyone. But then at the end of the day, when you get a big deal or something good happens, the little girl goes, I want some love.
Right.
I want somebody to play with. So right during that opening will come somebody that gives you the spark. And you might just say, I'm just going to do it for the fun. And then you get tied up in a love loop. I call it a love loop, where you think that it's going to be new. So all of us women and all of us men that have that little boy and little girl, if one part of you is mistrusting and needy occasionally, and the other part is strong and kind of controlling, you're not aligned with opening up to having real love. Does that make sense? You have the two parts. So my little girl ran my love life. My little girl, little Renee, ran my love life for years, and I kept meeting the same man with the same story. You're a beautiful girl. Let's have some fun. Oh, you're the one for me. But I never test drove the person to see, were they aligned with my spiritual values? Would they deal with my big Italian family that I love so much, that's really important to me? Could they deal with my lifestyle of me coaching men and women and taking people shopping and redesigning their lives and not be jealous, right? So I used to say, so once I decided after many heartbreaks, and you'll read about them if you get the book, that I was so hurt that trust was my biggest issue. So trust, it's really trusting in you. It doesn't have anything to do with the other person.
Well, I have a great role model at home.
You
My
do?
parents.
Yes.
You know,
You're
55
so lucky.
years it's going to be that they've been married in a few days, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
So I don't have trauma per se from that. And like every girl, it wasn't ingrained in me either that I had to find this person like this, or like that. In fact, they never told me anything. That's the beauty of my parents. They never dictated. It was education, but I never had those rules.
Well,
about
but it
how-
was
who-
media that trained us, our age group.
Yes.
Okay. During when we were growing up, the fairy tales first, and that's why the men didn't get the prince training that we were shown, right? So we saw Cinderella, we saw
Yes.
Sleeping Beauty, and then the
It's
men
Disney did
and right
that.
during that time, Playboy came into, the whole Playboy movement during the late 50s, early 60s, because I was just on Playboy radio, so I did a history study. The men were shown Barbie women with little teeny waists and big boobies, and that was the ideal woman. And then they were just given this whole other worldly look at beauty of women. They never got how to set up a life, how to train a life, unless they had really good parents. So I don't think it was really, it's not, some of it is genealogy from our parents, and it does get passed from generation. It's 5 generations of cheaters in my family.
Wow.
I didn't know that, but I had strong women role models as I grew up, but a lot of them were alone. And they used to point at me like this and say, you make sure you get your own money and your own power because men will leave you. That was my mantra as a little girl.
Wow.
So that is not true. There are amazing people that have had amazing upbringings, but we are here in Hollywood where there's a mixture of people that want their freedom and they want to go express themselves. And so it's a different world.
You just said something very important. It's true. It's not the same to live and date in Los Angeles
not.
than in Kansas,
No.
than in New York, than in Miami, than in a
That's
small town. You're right. That does have a lot to do with how people behave
That's right.
here. A lot of, I want to say, plastic
Yeah.
people. But like in my particular instance, because I grew up with a public figure, my father, someone, if they're not afraid, those are some of the reasons why they would not even ask me out.
Oh, yeah.
Afraid, my father, and knowing that, whoa, they better like either be above or right there because they know how he is. He's like total gentleman.
Right.
So hard to kind of live up to that standard. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I would hear that. I still have heard it, like even in the past year.
Wow.
It's like your father, and it's a tough one.
So
Yes.
that's an imprint. That doesn't mean that it has to be cheating. It has to be such high expectations that it's almost impossible for anyone to meet, And when I met my husband, he had 2 marriages. And, for all the women out there that said, I will never go out with a divorced man. Well, honey, I'm here to tell you, or a man, I don't want to go out with a woman with a bunch of kids. Well, there's women that have kids, and there's men that have kids, and we're all in our late 30s to 50s, right? And it's really amazing to meet some. I love the fact that my husband was married before. I was not. So he was, people used to judge me. Oh, yeah, here you are helping people with love, but you're not married. I was on television repeatedly, and Dick Clark's show, I remember, I was on The Other Half. And Dick was like, well, you're not married. How can you help people get married? And I said, well, the truth is that I do something that's abnormal, like not a normal life. So I need somebody that can live up to, be open to me helping people find love, because that's my mission. And I will find that. But I was definitely sure. Now, if you know that you want a gentleman, that should be your number one priority when you write in a thing. I love gentlemen. My husband is a total gentleman. If you meet him, he'll open your door. He said that the people in LA, when he goes to open a door, women go, what are you doing? I can do this myself. And he's like, oh my God, there's no appreciation. The women are kind of bitchy. Joe, please call in. I told him he should call in. I don't know if you're taking calls, but when I met him, he told me he never wanted to get married again. And I said, that's a shame, because I think that you were just married to the wrong person. So if you married the wrong person and other people married wrong people, then learn about what you want now. That's all we have is to believe in yourself, right? So who are you today? We only have, who knows, if you knew you only had another 2 years to live, wouldn't you want to go out and like find the most extraordinary love? That's how I always live my life, because I did have a near-death experience a few years ago. So when I wrote this, I wanted to wake people up to get real that not every person's going to be a jerk. And there are gentlemen in this world, but some of them don't live in Los Angeles. Most of the people that I am in line with in my life, my friends, all of the people that I've resonated to that are in my inner core, all of us should have an inner core family of people that are like us. And you should only look out into because there's great people in LA. There's amazing, talented, dynamic.
I mean, it's not that they're all bad. No. Not at all. I'm not saying
that. But you
got
to weed them out.
I have encountered amazing men.
Yes.
They're just not, I'm just not interested in those men. But I feel very blessed and fortunate that they have come into my life because I learned something from everybody.
Yes.
But the ones that are wounded, I guess it's something in me. And I realized that eventually it was like, what is it in me that I keep attracting these wounded men?
Because you're a healer.
These motherly, I have these motherly instincts. Yes, they see me, powerful, and that I'm strong, spiritually, emotionally strong, and they are attracted to that, but they're also afraid of that. The same thing that attracts them is the same thing that scares them.
But even my own husband, he's a tall, handsome, strong man, but when he was in the midst of his divorce, his little boy was present. And I, instead of pushing him away and saying, I don't want to deal with all this, I just said, what a shame. And I touched him and I said, because you have so many of the qualities that I've been looking for in a man. And we got to create a foundation of friendship. And then I realized that he just needed someone to appreciate him. Because when men marry women that don't appreciate them, or you marry somebody that, takes you down, like they take you down to make you feel bad about yourself, it takes us a long time to believe, like, maybe they were right. Like, maybe I really wasn't that great of a husband, or maybe I really wasn't that good of a man or a father. So when they doubt themselves, they might go for a temporary, I call it a temp. They fill the void with temporary people. Women do it as well. I was just at a party yesterday with all Hollywood people, and the women were like, I just have lovers until I meet my husband, So it's like this void, like, that you fill this. And we have, how many hours a week that you spend with love, right? So if you're in the middle of a breakup, you need to take the time that you do have off to focus on the lessons learned from the past and the fact that a part of you is hurt, but not all of you. And that there's many people in the world that have the same thing. Meeting someone that's in the same love phase that you are. So when I met him, I had healed all my stuff, which I did through the processes in my book, taking a look at how I avoided being honest about the people I was dating. And when I go back, and I would advise everyone to journal through your breakup, like, why did you pick that person? What was it about them that you knew was right or not right? Why did you stay? And when you do an evaluation of, like, were you really aligned? Most often when people read me their notes, when they coach with me, they go, oh my God, I knew all along. And then you can start to forgive yourself and believe in yourself, and then create a new vision for yourself in vision boards, in prayer, in meditations, and rituals to take care of your heart. So today I brought the girls here at the radio, Little Hearts, because as you're going through a breakup, you have to take your heart into your own hands and say, I did this to you, and I'm really sorry. And now what are we going to do to create a new life? And that's what I did. I started to say, if I'm meeting half unavailable people, and people always say, I always meet unavailable people, and I don't mean to be straight, I'm a straight shooter. A part of it is you that is unavailable, or a hurt part of you. So if you keep attracting, I call it a love loop, where you keep meeting the same man or men that just aren't in your league, it's because a part of you doubts that there is anyone that is there, right? So that's a matter of faith.
So we actually accept that.
Yes.
Even though at the time you don't know it. But I am glad that you actually help men, because that is one thing that I recognize, is that these men that are wounded, it all started in childhood. It comes from childhood.
Yep.
It comes from situations at home, whether it was infidelity by the mother
Or the
or
father.
the father, or because there was drugs and alcohol at home,
That's right.
or because they were actually not raised by their mother. They were raised by the grandmother or somebody else, and that there is a mess. That, oh my God, it actually breaks my heart. And when you were talking about why I don't leave, that's the part of me that I'm like, I'm sorry. I feel sorry, and I stay.
You're
and
a
then,
rescue girl.
yes,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. It's like I have these rescue
yes.
cases, but what I'm seeing is the child in there that's wounded. And because I come from this upbringing where we help children and youth all the time, it's hard for me. And then it's like, what are
But
you
guess
doing?
what? We have it too. Every man and every woman has a wounded side. So last night I'm at this Hollywood party. There's this cute guy, and he says to me, I've never been married, and maybe you're a love designer. What the hell is that, right? So we start talking, and he said to me, I'm wounded. And I said, well, how were you raised? And he said, my mother just criticized me from the day I was born. She told me I would be nothing. So I did everything in my power to become something, and now I am something. And he's kind of a famous guy. And he said, but my little boy picks rescue people so that I can bring them up, make them feel good, and then they leave me, and then I go right back to the feeling of being, it's a love loop. I said, you're in a love loop. So if you are out there and you're in a love loop and you're sad, you need to take your heart into your own hands and do something different. Because if you go to your friends that have heard your love loops over and over, like you probably have girlfriends that they call and they say, he dumped me, he's just like Bob, or he's just like, the last guy. And you look at him and think, I've heard this story for 4 years, Sheila, or whatever their name is, or you do that, a love loop, then it's a part of you. So as you believe in yourself and you it's not raising your standard, it's setting your vision in place. And then you go, what would my life be like if he was the right guy or she was? And it's really creating rituals. So I teach people how to vision for it and then actually meditate about it and tell people, I'm open to love this year. People that, like I broke up, but you know what? I'm healing my heart, and I'm going to do some new things this year. This Valentine's Day, this time of year, the scripts, you need people you need to call people and ask for help. And if you are a rescue person, I am guilty. Now I get paid to do it, okay? But before I used to date the people, and then 7 guys in a row married the next girl. I hooked them up, man. Like they had really bad apartments. I mean, I had doctors that I dated, and I'd go to their house. I'm like, this house looks like a college dorm. Like, well, once I get married, the woman's going to come and take over. No, get ready for love before it happens. So the thing about all this, I have so many notes here. You got to create an action plan to be gentler with your heart, look at your own patterns and heal them. And then, like with a different change, you go out with new wording, new conversations, and even prayers, because most people are praying, please let me get rid of this pain. I miss him. Because when you're with somebody, you created sort of if you're dating, right, you were with him every weekend, every Sunday, you had dinner, we went to certain places, we went on vacations, your favorite restaurants. You got to break all those things right in the beginning, because you have to fill that time up with supportive friends during the first couple of weeks to month, because that's when you need the most support.
Well, the brain actually brings you back to that. There's neurological symptoms, effects. There's even the syndrome of the heart breakup.
Oh, yeah.
Where even elder people go through that, where they really do get physical pain.
Yes.
Because the brain is the one controlling all of those emotions, and it sends that to the body, and you do feel pain. You feel muscle, heartache, so much pain. So it says that when you have a breakup, the brain tends to go back to the beginning of the relationship, because that's the most beautiful part of the relationship.
And you remember all the good stuff.
So you're hanging on to all of those good memories, because that is what actually attracted you, what made you fall in love with this person. And that's all you want to deal with, because the other stuff is just too painful. But They say remember the bad stuff so that you can get over.
We know that's funny you would say that, because there was a client of mine. She was with a guy for 8 years, and there was so many signs that it was bad. But whenever she would break up with him, she was in the pain of the sex and the cozy cuddling and all that. So I said, well, let's write down all the great things that you did, and then all the things that drove you out of your mind. And when you looked at that list, it was like this long, right? So anytime that she would call, we would do readings and prayers and everything. I'd say, well, I have the list that you gave me 6 weeks ago, and I know you're trying to go back, but he's still doing all of these things, right? And she'd be like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that, right? So you have to have somebody to keep you accountable during your breakup, because you will always go back to the sparky sex. You'll always go back to the memory of the dinner that he told you that you were the love of his life, or vice versa, or you're the man of my dreams. So men, when that happens, they get really sensitive about it, but they do not have anybody to talk to about it, because they don't want anybody to know that their hearts are broken. So they are more sensitive, and we are blessed women that we have each other. So when you are going through a breakup, you need somebody to help you that isn't going to give you a friend version of it, but's going to be straight shooting with you about
What
it.
about making a list? For years, I resisted writing down what I
you
wanted
wanted?
in a man. So I finally did it in December. I had a vision board group
Yeah?
at home, and
Oh,
it was
good.
great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was led by a friend
Yeah.
and myself. And I said, I'm not going to do the vision board thing because I'm not quite into it. But I said, but I am going to sit down and finally write down that list of the things that I want. And I put it on my phone and I reorganize it as I realize it's like what's important. I move it to the top, the priority to the very top. And one thing I have always done is that I really do lay it out. If someone really interests me, this is who I am, how I am. These are my expectations. This is how I am. This is what my life is. So if you want to be a part of it, great. But if not, it's like, let's put it out there. But men are not like that. They're not.
It's not a business deal.
No, they don't. They're not honest. Then you start realizing all of these little things later. It's like, oh my goodness. And eventually it just, the disenchantment is so huge. Because like I said, you want to trust.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have time to be figuring. There are women that are obsessive.
Yes.
They're looking and at social media, investigating, asking. I mean, I have friends that have asked me, it's like, if there's someone that like you like, let me know, give me their name, and I'll run it. I'll call my PD friends and all stuff like that. I'm like, do you really need to go to those extremes?
Mm. Well, I think that not only writing a list is important because you're talking about the qualities of a person, but it's when you articulate it in a way that's like, okay, when I said that to my husband when I met him, I said, listen, you need to see my life. I didn't say, I need somebody that's this, and this. I said, I need you to see my lifestyle to see if you can fit into it or I can fit into yours, so that I didn't make it all about me. So I wanted a partnership where our lifestyles could fit, and it isn't always perfect, but I would say 80% of the time it is. But it was challenging for me to find somebody that could deal with what I do. So I created the vision of it. I wanted a businessman that was responsible and a gentleman and wanted partnership and was used to being married. So a lot of women said, divorced men, I'm done with all of that. They never want to get married again. I said, that is not true.
Yeah, not true.
They are probably, depending on where you are in the divorce situation, most people, like I said in the beginning of this, have been divorced from their relationship as they were planning the divorce, even before, like when you knew.
Oh, we were roommates for 5 years.
I know, and a lot of people are in that situation. They're still living with someone. And in my book, the man that I met right before my husband lied to me about his wife, and I did what I suggest everybody to do. When you meet somebody you really, 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 really like, and the chemistry's flying, and the alignment seems all happening, just don't drop your panties and jump in bed with them. Hang out. See where they live first. Find out who their roommate is, which was his wife, right? So I was running rapid dating all the time. I didn't have a lot of time when I met him, and I liked him, and he seemed like a good guy. He told me a bunch of bullshit in the beginning, and I had a bullshit meter reading that was saying I thought he lied. So what I did was I said, Tony, you're a really handsome dude, but I'm looking to have a long-term committed relationship, and we do not know each other well enough. And he told me later that he called me a flipper. He goes, I was thinking you were going to be a flipper. And that's a term that I didn't ever hear before. I said, what the hell's a flipper? And he goes, oh, somebody, I'm in the middle of a divorce. And he told me later. And I was just going to flip women, like 2 or 3 dates, because usually I could land a woman in 2 or 3 dates. I would tell them all what they wanted to hear, then flip them like a house for a new one because I'm numb and I don't want a relationship. Right. But he didn't tell me that. But I knew it because I sensed it. So I used my intuition. I listened to my heart because I knew that I wanted marriage, and I kept saying to him, I am in a place where I'm looking for a committed relationship. And instead of saying, like jump in and then after 3 dates say, oh, we slept together, does this mean we're going somewhere? That's the wrong thing that most people do. They think he said he wanted it. We got in, we jumped in, and you didn't know any of the other foundational strength parts. The faith. Does he have religion?
Right,
what is his mother like? So Jewish men, for example, I'm Italian. They thought I was Jewish. Persian men, Armenian men. It does not matter that you're not Jewish. I said, yes, it does. I said, because my eggs are not Jewish and your babies will not be Jewish. I said, so, whatever their names were, let me meet your mom. Because I want to be friends with your family. That's important to me.
Oh, that's very
friends
telling,
with the family.
Very telling.
Meet the family before you drop your drawers, right? Yes. Tony was not introducing me to his mother. I talked to his mother. She knew he was living with his wife. She lived upstairs. He lived downstairs. They were selling their house, and they had a baby. He lied about the son. He lied about her. And I was dreaming about a blonde with big breasts and a little boy almost every time I saw him, because I'm very intuitive. And I said, you are not telling me something, and I have not been to your home, and I have not met your mother, so I'm not getting involved. So as it turns out, I was right, and my mother passed, and I ended up going home. That man did not send flowers. He never sent a card. And my father said, what kind of a man that you've been dating would not do that for? And then it was the month, 2 months before I met my husband. I came back, and then he told me he had lied to me and that he had fallen in love with me because I didn't get that involved with him. He had fallen in love with me because I made him wait, and I wasn't even his type. It was a very interesting thing for me because I had decided that my heart had been broken many times because I was busy. They gave me the script that seemed great, and I just said, okay, the chemistry's here between us. I need to know your values first.
No, values definitely is
family.
The one thing. Like you said, family, values, spiritual beliefs.
And fathers.
And the relationship with the mother is a very telling one.
Yes.
And the relationship with the father is another very telling one. But we're running out of time.
Oh, boy, we could go on
like
forever and
any closing thoughts? We already talked about how to recover from it and the fact that it's good to make a list, and you said have a plan. What other tips?
No, I would say, first of all, be gentle with your heart and get support. Number 2, really don't stop your life to suffer so long, and get support, whether it's from a therapist or somebody that's in the dating game that can help you, like somebody like me. If you want to call me, I'll give you a free consultation to see how I might be able to support you. But I would advise you to do some healing on your patterns, because if you've had a pattern and you want to get real about why you haven't found love or you're hurt and you're scared to do it again, then slow everything down. And this Valentine's Day, believe in love, believe in yourself, and buy yourself a heart and vow that this year you're going to make some changes that are going to help you to open your heart and find true love. But it really comes from loving yourself and not beating your heart up when you've gone through something like this.
Yeah, not beating yourself, because that's the one thing that we do tend to do, men and women. And I do it, yes. It's like, how could you be so stupid? I tell myself that. How could you be so foolish? It's like, haven't you learned your lesson? So it's like this broken record. in my head, and then when they say the most ridiculous things, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like even listening
I understand.
to this stuff. But
But
to me, it was helpful to sit down and do the list because I was ready to do the list.
Well, the list too of what quality, like I always say, would you want to marry yourself right now? Would you want to be your partner? Like, it's like looking
That's a great one.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you want to, like right here it says, when you're lonely, get nurtured. Like whenever I broke up, I got foot massages. I went to healing. And I'm a hypnotherapist. I hypnotize people. And there are literally, you feel like you're attached to somebody energetically, right? There's like cords. Mm-hmm. I'm a cord cutter. Cut the cords.
I like that.
There are rituals that you can do to literally cut the cords from this other person so that you are not being, like I always say, where in your body right now? So ask yourself, scan your whole, like close your eyes and where are you attached to this person? Is it in your gut? Is it in your sexual, a lot of people are sexually addicted. Some people just can't get them out of their heart. So you need to do some heart healing. It's healing your own heart so that you don't do it again. And you need to nurture yourself by keeping yourself busy with things that you always said, well, once I have more time, I'll do these things.
Yes,
it's time to
do
doing
it.
those. Start doing those and get some support. So I would be happy to. I said if anybody calls me, there was a link.
Them your books.
Yeah, let me show you the book.
The Love Mechanics is the first book.
This would be the book for people going. It's called Get Real About Love: The Secrets to Opening Your Heart and Finding True Love. And if you buy it on Amazon, get in touch with me, and I will send you these vows because it says here, commit to yourself that you're going to take time to get real about what has blocked you from opening your heart and make this a priority in your life to look at yourself and not go out and say it's the men or it's the women.
Yes.
But look at the lineage. Look at your patterns, where they came from. So when you meet somebody, it has questions in there. So you can ask a person, so tell me, how were you raised? Oh, my mother was a drunk alcoholic, and I had to take care of her my whole life. Or, oh, well, I don't know. My dad was never there. Find out things subtly so that you're not jumping into a relationship. And when you do this, you'll get real with yourself, and then it gives you the plan on creating a new vision for what you want now. And the list is one part. And then tonight, when you go to bed, if you have a heart at your house, I always tell people, put your heart next to your bed and lay in bed and think about, okay, what would be my vision? Not only the list, when you write the list, what would it feel like to have a total gentleman come and be here and support you on your new quest in your empowerment work? What would it really be like to have somebody be like the guy that holds your wings when you're out helping everyone? And I started to vision what that would be like because I spent way too many years thinking about how shitty it was. So take your energy and use it to create your vision, to design a plan for your new love life, and don't spend as much time healing as you do visioning for the future, because most people I see people and I'm like, how long ago was that you broke up with Steve? It's been 5 years and I just haven't been able to move on. I'm like, really? So what if you knew that you only had a year? What would you be doing with your life? You'd be visioning and going forward with passion. And remember, this is my last thought. Everything you think, everything you say, and everything you pray and tell other people will become your new reality.
Yes.
So from today forward, believe in you. And when somebody says, what's going on with your breakup? You can say, you know what, I'm learning. I'm getting real with myself. And I'm going to learn from this so that I can have extraordinary love the next time because I'm ready. And that's a different story than most people say.
Yes,
when
I
they're
love
breaking
that.
up.
So right here, believe in yourself.
That's right.
And believe in love because it does exist. I do believe in it, so I just have to be patient and look at my patterns because, like I said, and I'm very open about it because it took me a while to recognize it. And those are the things that sometimes we are not recognizing is that we want to put the blame on other people, but it always starts with us. And with that, thank you, Renee, so much.
You're
Happy
welcome.
Valentines to everyone. Thank you for being on our show today, for sharing all of your wisdom and all of your great stories. And we will see you next week, mi gente, here on Believe in You por reallatinoinc.com.
Believe in You. No te preocupes por lo que fue. Abre los ojos a lo que vendrá. Sintonízanos la próxima semana a través de radiolatinoinc.com. Believe in You con Cecilia Mota.